Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all these storytelling, world building, and characters in video games, because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 119.
Hey, welcome to the episode where we're still recovering from Gen Con. Oh man, it's like one of the best vacations ever, but it always takes a lot out of me, and this year I feel like it took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to play more games at Gen Con. Before we get into the episode, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that in many different ways. Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Reddit, YouTube, Steam, and Discord in the description below. Or you can contact us via email at loretogether@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do that in two different ways. First is thumbs up, 5 stars, 7 thumbs up, 1,000 stars, whatever it is, wherever you're listening, we appreciate it.
Thumbs up, 7 up, what?
Yeah. The other way is through Patreon at patreon.com/loretogether. We can pay a per episode pledge between $1 and $3 to get early access to our episodes, voting rights in our Let's Plays, which Mass Effect starts Mass Effect is starting before this goes live to everybody, but Mass Effect 2, sorry.
Mass Effect 2 specifically, yes. Our patrons voted about what Lorena Shepherd did with what Lorena Shepherd did in Mass Effect 1. And now we're moving on to Mass Effect 2, where there's a lot more choices we have to pick ahead of time.
Yes, but there's a lot more choices that'll be a spur of the moment, and patrons get extra votes in the YouTube chat.
Yes, they absolutely do. Just make sure your username matches at least enough with your Patreon handle. Or you've told us. Yeah, send us a message to Patreon. And there's also mini episodes.
There's mini episodes. There's exclusive Let's Plays that are not going up on YouTube. And there's also early access to the Jada Empire and Cyberpunk Let's Plays that I'm doing right now.
Yes, and another mini episode that's going to be coming out soon.
Yep.
Following up on the tabletop RPG I ran for Gen Con and how people received it. So hopefully a conversation with you, Mystic, about how that went.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought you might find that interesting. So,
any idea what we're doing?
No, I have no idea what we're doing.
The wikis have been all over the place on my screens, so.
It's funny. So there are times where I walk in because I need to get something in the office, and I'll know that Mystic is researching the episode, and he'll freak out, and my head's already down to the floor. It's like, I know the drill now. We've been doing this long enough. I don't look at your screen unless I know it's a non-recording week. So what are we doing?
Most wikis aren't too bad, but there's just a few wikis where it just, you know immediately what it is just by the sidebars.
Yeah.
Fallout being one of them, I think.
Yes.
We are doing a hyper-realistic first-person adventure.
Hyper-realistic?
Yeah. And that's overselling it or underselling it, depending on how you look at it.
Well, it's first person, so it's not something like Heavy Rain.
And shall we say historically accurate, quote unquote.
What? It's not Assassin's Creed's third person. I don't know.
This game came out in 2018, and you've heard me talk about it at least once.
I'm totally blanking here.
We'll be doing Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh! I should have seen this happening. Okay. When you said realistic, too, I just did not go that far back. Oh, and you know what? It was funny, because the first thing I thought is, well, he mentioned Far Cry Primal, but we are definitely not doing that this soon.
So,
I didn't know it was first person.
It is. You cut to third person for some little bits here and there, especially conversations, but it's primarily first person.
Because I think the cutscenes in the beginning that set up the story are third person.
Some are.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 2018 realistic medieval adventure RPG developed by Warhorse Studios and published by Deep Silver.
Warhorse. Sorry, that's a deep cut.
and also published by Warhorse Studios. It's a weird one. Deep Silver published all the physical console and PC releases, as well as the console digital ones, while Warhorse Studios published the digital Windows version, so like Steam.
Okay. All right.
I want to say here, this game takes place within Bohemia, which is a historical part of the Holy Roman Empire and within modern-day Czechia.
Yes. Yeah, Bohemia. So very much that Eastern European-ish
Yes.
vibe. Yes.
I will do my best, but I will likely be terrible with some of the names here.
We should know how to pronounce these, but we don't really know
No.
how to pronounce these. That's just the way it is.
It's worth knowing that despite it being marketed as, quote, realistic, it's not historically accurate when push comes to shove all the time.
Yeah.
As the historical consultant on the game said, it's a game, not an open museum medieval simulator.
Well, that's kind of the same thing that happened with Senua's Sacrifice, which
Right.
now Senua's Saga continues, and we'll be covering that at some point in the future too, where there's a lot, you can tell that they did a lot of care to try to make it referential to the history, but there comes a point where it's just, there's no way this could have happened.
Yeah.
And that's also one that I would say is very gritty in what it shows you, because I remember you showed me some of these cutscenes, Mystic, and it's gritty.
Aspects of life are fairly accurate, but some aspects are not realistic, and we should take everything in this game with a big grain of salt. To that end, in this game, characters and people are cast in different lights than they may have been in reality,
Okay.
because we're telling the story from a point of view. Usually, obviously not always, when you're given bad guys in a story based on real history, there's often a disassociation from what the truth was, because that's just the nature of storytelling
Modern
and history.
I should say, I stumbled on my words there. Call of Duty, especially Modern Warfare, or any of their games, really kind of has to do this with how they structure it, unless you're doing like their zombie mission modes.
I have no exposure to any Call of Duty story since Call of Duty Modern Warfare in 2000 something. Like the first, I know it was re-released at some point, but the first release,
Yeah.
the first non-World War II and World War I one, that was the last time I played Call of Duty at all.
Yeah, and Call of Duty,
Or at least the story mode.
specifically
So-
the historical Call of Duties, the way they talk about the enemies, it's so interesting, because about when these were getting big around 10, 15 years ago, that was right before we started to get the heebie-jeebies about historical context racism, which would still spring up. You're like, oh,
And this
that's
is
not a
definitely
good feeling.
a little present here and there in this. It's no different than when in a fictional setting, like where if we cover The Witcher, we talk about the Nilfgaardian. They are, I don't think I'm doing that name right, but we discuss them. They are based off of a certain aspect of Germanic soldier, but they are the bad guys
Yeah.
at the time. So this is an imperfect mirror of reality.
Right. Exactly.
So let's begin. It's 1403,
Cool.
and we're playing the role of Henry, who lives in the tranquil village of Silver Skallets.
What's a scallet?
I don't know. It's just the name of the town, Silver Skallets.
I thought you would at least. Okay. I didn't mean to stump you on a question so early. Sorry.
It never occurred to me, what does that mean? It's just, okay, that's the town name. It never occurred to me.
With the writing I'm doing now, for me as a writer, names are very important. So I always assume, even if it's not true, that other writers do the same thing across all medium. So,
Well, now we're going to look it up and have a cut in the episode.
well, we live in the future, so this is possible.
So Skallets is the name of the town, and it's just a name. Sometimes it is referred to as Silver Skallets, Silver Skallis, Silver Skallets.
So the meaning is lost to time, it sounds like.
Yeah, in fact, it is a real place,
I believe it. I believe that.
but Yeah, I do not know what the meaning of the name is.
Okay, that's fair.
But Henry is there training to be a blacksmith under his father Martin at their forge. In between lessons, he'd often go horsing around with his friends, Fritz, Matthew, and Matthias, while wooing Bianca, the local ale maid, and his kind of girlfriend.
Okay.
And when we say horsing around, that also includes things like throwing manure at the house of a man named Hans.
That sounds so cruel. Why would you do that?
Hans has been running his mouth about the abduction of the king.
The abduction of the king?
Yes.
So what kingdom is Bohemia the kingdom?
Yes, but, well, I know the king. We'll get to that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But needless to say, Hans is running his mouth about how this is a good thing, and Henry and his friends do not agree.
They were not ready for the democratic process.
I don't think kings did the democratic process so much, but they are interrupted by Hans and his lackey tag-along, Zbyszek.
Zbyszek. That's the most interesting name we've gotten so far.
Zbyshek. Zbyszek.
Zbyszek. Okay.
This leads to a fistfight, our first combat, possibly. Because Henry has also been, like, you can do things out of order here a little bit. Henry has also been able to learn the basics of sword fighting in secret, being taught by a mercenary named Vanyek, who is staying in Silver Scarlets for a short time. This is, of course, much to his mother's disapproval.
Of course, that's fair.
One day, Henry and his father have just finished making a masterwork sword for their liege lord, Sir Radzik Kolbia.
Okay.
Henry soon learns that in addition to being a skilled swordsmith, his father had some talent in sword fighting as well. Henry longs for adventure and to see the outside world, so he asks his father to teach him how to defend himself. Martin refuses, saying he prefers Henry settle down with a nice girl, learn blacksmithing, and keep away from trouble. Everything is idyllic and peaceful, so you know things have to go wrong.
Yeah, and this is, I know up to what's happening next, but you made it pretty clear what goes wrong after a certain point when you first showed this to me.
In 1403, a Cuman army commanded by Markwart von Aulitz.
Excuse me, what did you say? Markwart what?
Markwart
what?
Markwart von Aulitz, one of King Sigismund's lieutenants, attacks the town. It is utterly destroyed, an event later known as the Sack of Skalitz. This was all revenge on Sir Radzig, the liege of the town, for his continued loyalty towards King Wenceslas IV, Sigismund's missing half-brother and rightful king of Bohemia.
Okay. So essentially this is the problem with dynasty families a lot of times, is that if there's an idea of supreme privilege when you're king, everybody's vying for the throne.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Henry's father is killed as he defends Henry's mother. He's stabbed in the back by Markwart von Aulitz himself as Henry watches from the gates to the castle. Basically, there's a wall separating the village from the castle, like a wood wall, and then you have the stone walls of the castle with the moat and everything. Mm-hmm. He's in that
in-between space?
That in-between space, in that wooden wall, and he's watching as his parents are killed. His mother is soon killed by the soldiers. Henry is dumbstruck, but slowly begins to hear his friends in the castle yelling at him for a run to the bridge before it's raised. He doesn't make it in time, and they shout for him to head to Talmberg to tell them what happened here.
It's called Talmberg?
Talmberg. Talmberg.
Talmberg. I'm sorry. For a moment, I was like...
Talmberg. Right next to Townville.
I was like, suddenly we went from extremely dramatic, horrible stuff to Minecraft vibes. I was very confused.
Wasn't that in What Remains of Edith Finch? And it wasn't Townsville, but when you were in that one guy's game, everything was Blaville, but it was like different permutations of that.
Oh, I don't know if I got that far in the game, but I think, yes, you mentioned that. The guy who was trying to make the video game, yes.
So Radzig sees Henry run down the path, guards after him. Basically, he's watching from the castle window.
Wow.
Henry manages to escape the slaughter, stealing a horse and riding to Talmberg to warn Sir Divish of the attack. During his journey, he might be able to distract some Cumans from raping and assaulting Teresa, a local miller girl.
Oh my gosh.
She had hidden in a hay bale, but Zabishek pushes her towards the Cumans to provide a distraction so that he can escape. He's a bit of a giant jerk.
Well, more than a jerk. Okay.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah, that's more than a jerk. That's just complicit in violence at that point.
Henry rides past and can distract the Cuman so Teresa can escape. If the player doesn't help or doesn't notice, it kind of happens off to the side. You have to be paying attention and listening, and you are in a high-stakes environment at the point in time.
That would be the kind of thing that I, as a player, I know I would avoid it, and then somebody would be like, oh, yeah, this happened late because you miss it. And I would feel guilty, and I probably would not be able to play ever again.
Yeah. Teresa manages to escape herself if you do not.
Oh, gosh.
As he flees the combat, even if he saves Teresa, he is later injured by a Cuman arrow before arriving at Talmberg.
Henry, particularly, our hero. Oh, right.
Once in Talmberg, his wound is treated, and he is put on guard duty as Divish and his captain of the guard, Sir Robard, are wary that Talmberg might be the next target for the approaching army. Luckily, the survivors of Skalitz managed to escape and flee to Rattay, passing by Talmberg on the way south. So Radzig is relieved to see Henry alive and commands Divish to keep him confined in Talmberg Castle, forbidding him from returning to Skalitz, which is now surely swarming with bandits. The next day, Sigismund, hot on Radzig's tail, assembles his army outside Talmberg, but thankfully decides to move on in search of his prey, convinced by Divish that they have not seen the escaping refugees. Henry takes the opportunity to escape the castle and heads back to Skalitz.
He couldn't help himself. That makes sense, even though this is the worst idea ever. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, just is not a good idea.
There, among the smoldering ruins of the town... By the way, this is not... I think there is fast travel. I don't remember from my playtime. But you do have to ride there and back. This is a large open world to a degree. There are some screens where you're just traveling on map. But
okay.
Yeah. There among the smoldering ruins of the town, he sees the bodies of many of his friends and neighbors, including Bianca and his mother and father. Henry tearfully vows to bury them and begs their forgiveness for being a coward. Determined to bury them, Henry searches for a shovel and stumbles across Zabishek, who is trying to loot the corpses.
There's always one guy in the group who's just so supremely selfish that you wonder why anybody let him live. And the trick is he's so supremely selfish that that's his survival tactic.
Yeah. After a confrontation, Zabishek runs off but leaves behind his shovel. Henry returns to his parents' bodies, but is interrupted by Zabishek, who has brought with him a group of scavenging bandits, led by the powerful and brutal Runt.
The powerful and brutal
It's an ironic
Runt.
name.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm assuming he's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Runt, taking a liking to the exquisite sword that Henry still carries, beats him up and is about to kill him with it when Teresa appears, followed closely by Sir Robard and some of the Talmberg guards.
Oh.
They chase off the bandits, and Teresa takes Henry to her uncle Peshek's mill in Rattay, where she nurses him back to health over several weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to remember that if we're going to keep this realistic, injuries take time. It's not anything where you can be like, I have a salve, you get half your hit points back.
I mean, that does happen kind of with the gameplay. You have elixirs and potions that are pretty good at healing you. But gameplay,
fair.
Again, we are going to start talking about this for our patrons, where it's going to be gameplay versus story, and does the gameplay get in the way of the story?
Yes, exactly.
But in this case, I'm willing to allow it.
Yeah, that's fair. Sometimes it makes more sense to be able to move on and have the fun quicker.
Yeah.
But I will agree that if you're in the sense of if you're beat within an inch of your life, it makes sense that you're going to need time to heal. You're not just going to get up the next day and be like, oh, man, I feel great. It's like, no, that was a sword wound in my thigh. I need time.
Once recovered, Henry requests a meeting with Lord Radzig, asking to be sworn into his service in order to learn how to fight, kill Runt, and recover the sword. Radzig is at first hesitant to make a squire from a blacksmith, but relents and orders Henry to undergo basic training. Should be noted, by this time we've had a dozen or so fights. The combat is interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult at first, mostly because it's working off the fact that Henry finds combat difficult.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, you kind of grow along with Henry, especially the first time you're playing this. He's never been trained all that much, and he's out of his depth, and so is the player. It's a very complex system. That said, by the time you're in your combat training, you've had about a dozen fights, and the fights are not big. You know, 1 or 2 people, usually, that you have to keep track of. I remember getting my butt kicked when I was against 6 people. That was time to go back to training.
Right. No, that makes sense. That's kind of like I'm in an online D&D game where they're trying to keep it very realistic to around the same time period. So they've been taking stats from the D&D monster manual and then trying to figure out how do I make this a person. Like we fought a dude that had a big old like Viking horn hat sort of thing, but was also broad as all get all. And then later on, the DM admitted, I just took the stats of a minotaur and made it make sense. And I'm just like, you know what? I can't be mad. I mean, there were freaks of nature that happened to be huge back then too. Yeah. So it's fair. It's fair.
During training, Henry meets Hans Capon.
Wait, what?
I don't know if that's pronounced right. Hans.
Hans.
Fair enough. H-A-N-S. Capon. C-A-P-O-N. Capon? Capon?
I mean, I'm gonna always pronounce it more French-like, and we're not in that area,
no.
So I'm not gonna guess.
But Hans will become the governor of Rattay when he comes of age, and the two strike up a bit of a rivalry.
Hans and Henry.
Yeah.
Hans and Henry duking it out. That sounds like a boxer battle.
Henry is ordered to join the local watchmen on evening patrol. While on duty, he attempts to close the local tavern and gets into a fight with Sir Hans, his rival.
Well, Hans is a spoiled brat, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he is less than pleased to be ordered home by a commoner.
Yeah, spoiled brat. Yeah, you know.
The fight is interrupted by Sir Hanush, Hans' guardian, who is disgusted with the two young men.
Sir Hanush?
Yeah, H-A-N-U-S-H.
Okay.
To ensure that Henry learns his place and Hans learns his lesson, he orders them to go on a hunting trip together.
Okay.
While on the trip, the two men learn a lot more about each other and both become more respectful. Further cemented when Hans is taken prisoner by two Cumans and Henry is able to save him and ensure his safe return to Rattay. Having now earned the respect of the nobility, Henry is officially accepted into Sir Radzig's service. However, at that moment, Captain Bernard arrives to tell them that there has been a raid on the local Newuff stud farm, and Henry is asked to accompany the captain.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Once at the farm, they are horrified to learn that nearly all of the horses have been slaughtered, along with many of the people.
No!
Henry investigates and questions the survivors and confirms that the raiders came from the north, and that Runt was among them. He becomes suspicious that a stable boy named Ginger might know more than he's letting on. He stabbed one of the raiders with his hoof pick, but then went missing.
Ginger. Now, is Ginger named because it's a connection to having ginger hair? Which I don't even know if that connection has been made at this point in time in history.
I do not remember what the character looks like. I do know the quest is called Ginger and Pickles. Or Ginger in a Pickle or something.
Ginger in a Pickle.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pickle ginger. Yeah, and I guess they would know what ginger is back then. Huh.
So Henry begins to search for Ginger. As it turns out, Ginger is innocent. We're kind of going really fast through quests here because I think we're on like the 7th or 8th quest now.
Well, I remembered that you were talking about this game and playing it, and you said, it's really weird to think about this being such an epic game where it takes 2 hours before you get to the title screen?
Yes.
Legitimately? So I imagined when you explained it that we were skipping a good amount of stuff.
Right. That's always kind of fun though when the title screen comes out of nowhere, because not all games have a title screen in the middle of the story.
Right.
A lot just have it at the opening, and that's it.
Yeah, the start screen.
Yeah. But then it's always fun when it does pop up in the middle of the story. Like Dragon Age Inquisition has it pop up in the middle of the story as soon as you get to closing the rift.
Yes.
The first time.
Yeah, it does. Although the start screen is also the beginning of the story too,
That's
which
true.
is really interesting.
But
I
this
like how they
one,
did that. Yeah.
the title screen comes up when you come back to Skalitz.
Oh.
And it's all leveled and burned and stuff. And the other one that comes to mind right now is Cyberpunk. That title screen took 6 episodes to show up of my Let's Play series. So,
oh my God, seriously? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta watch your Let's Play and get caught up to that.
As it turns out, Ginger is innocent, but because he recognized one of the bandits, he ran away, terrified that they would come after him.
That's a fair assumption.
Yeah.
Especially, how old is Ginger?
I don't remember.
I was gonna say Ginger is
He's not. He's young. He's not. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not that old. I mean, yeah, if you're younger and you're just trying to look out for yourself and you're kind of on your own, yeah.
Yeah. Henry dispatches Ginger's pursuers, and Ginger gives him a lead. A man from Uzhitz, Uzhitz,
Okay.
with a limp. After some more investigation, Henry learns that the limping man is called Lubosh, and heads off to Uzhitz to track him down. However, he arrives too late, as Lubosh has been brutally murdered.
Ooh.
And, like,
Brutally, I imagine, like beat to a pulp.
his mutilated corpse is pinned up to the wall in his house, eviscerated,
Oh man, gross.
with the word Zdradze, or traitor, spelled out in his own blood above his head.
We forget that the medieval era of Europe was particularly brutal, to the point where there are people anthropologically who have theorized, I don't know if this has been proven or not, that because of the harshness of winter in Europe, it changed the psychology of people who survived there and made them more brutal. It's a theory that's out there. I'm not going to say whether or not it's true.
Right.
But medieval, I mean, when you're saying you're going to get medieval on somebody, there's a reason why that phrase has such weight to it.
At first, Henry is dismayed, but managed to discover that Lubosh had been spending a lot of time with the local cleric, Father Godwin.
Okay.
Although the priest states that he cannot break his vows to tell Henry what he needs to know, they agree to meet at the local tavern and try to work something out. The two discuss the corruption of the church, which is mildly dangerous at the time to talk about, probably.
Oh, yeah, very dangerous.
And drink heavily into the night.
That is not dangerous. Now, are we talking about Catholic?
Yes.
So very Catholic. Okay.
Yeah, this is part of the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire.
The Roman Empire.
Yeah,
Wait.
this is Pope. This is God. This is
Yeah. So the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood context, and also, yeah, it's so funny how Catholics can be really severe about certain things, but drinking? No, they're totally fine with you drinking. Get as drunk as you want. Just make sure you come to church every day. That's all.
The next morning, they awaken hungover, and Godwin promises that if Henry performs that day's sermon, he will tell him all he knows about Lubosh.
What?
Alternatively, and less funny, Henry will have the opportunity to speak with the local bailiff. It's more fun to go with the sermon.
Go with this. I mean, I guess if you've memorized the Latin over years and years, and memory was very different when we had less tools to retain stuff.
Oh, it's also a dialogue check. You have to make it convincing.
Oh, that's painful. You know what? Me, if I'm playing this, I would go to the bailiff. I'm sorry. I'm boring. I like the dependable route. Let's just do the thing that makes sense.
Either way, in the end, he gets a lead. Riki from Ledetchko.
I want everybody to know how hard Mystic is trying to get this right.
Ledetchko.
Please just email your notes, loretogether@gmail.com.
Ledechko works.
I understand, but even if you're pronouncing it right, there are going to be people from a different region of the world who pronounce it a different way. Are going to make sure that you know that you pronounced it quote unquote wrong.
Eventually, Henry is able to track down Riki to a cave near Ledechko. If he gets there in time, he can save Riki from the bandits who are out to kill him and gain some valuable insight into the Nuaf raid.
So much murder, guys.
But if it takes too long, he will find Riki beaten almost to death and can do nothing more than to ease his passing. Yeah, this is not Skyrim and other games where quests kind of wait for you to finish.
No, let's talk about how brutally real this is. Oh, man.
Henry sets off to find the next member of the gang, Timmy.
The actual disgust Mystic showed on his face when he finally said the name Timmy. I'm like,
it's more just the name doesn't feel right, considering all the other names we've had. Like
we've had these really good,
like Riki, Lubosh, Runt. Okay, maybe Ginger is basically a stable boy, so I'm not bothered by that one. But
yeah, Ginger sounds like it could be a nickname too.
Timmy.
So it also makes me think of, so we're in Bohemia in the 1400s, 13th century. 13th century names didn't really do the Timmy or Jimmy thing or anything like that. So it feels so out of place. And I only know that because of the names I'm using in the story I have now. Like it just... It's not a common European... Like
Timothy, I'd buy.
And most of and Timothy was pronounced differently because it had more of like an E than an I sound at the end.
That's true. Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you had a name that ended with an I, it usually had more of a a Roman context, like Vitali.
Yeah, is this based off of Eastern European names, or are you basing out more Western European names?
I'm thinking of I have looked up Eastern European names. My work in progress has a mix of European names there, and there's certain regions that have different influences. And a lot of what I am researching, and I'm trying to look up names that are not Judeo-Christian based.
That's fair.
And there are a lot of good Eastern European names that are influenced by Roman names. So, like, Vitali makes sense, but Timmy does not. Like, it's okay. I'm sorry. I've gone on too long.
Henry tracks Timmy to a windmill south of Merojed. That is totally not how that's pronounced, I'm sure. I'm going to go with it. Okay. There, Henry is confronted by 4 bandits led by Morcock.
By who?
Morcock. Morcock. And can either tell them where Timmy is, send them to Rote while he finds Timmy himself, or kill them. We kill a lot of people, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of death in this game. It's not just you killing a lot of people, though. So.
It's true. In any event, he will learn the vague location of the bandit camp, and further investigation will reveal that they are hiding in Pribyslavitz.
Pribyslavitz. I don't know how to pronounce that any better than you do.
I'll still spell it. Pribyslavitz. Pribyslavitz.
I think you pronounced it admirably there, Mystic.
Henry is tasked with infiltrating the bandit camp and may take the opportunity to sabotage the food and arrows in preparation for the upcoming battle.
Yes, I love this idea.
While there, he is able to confirm that Runt is holed up inside the crumbling church. Basically, he sees a man being dragged up to the nearby church where Runt emerges from. The man has been accused of starting a fight that resulted in the death of 2 Hungarians.
Oh, wow.
Runt is furious, reminding everyone that they're supposed to be a united army. Although the Cumans are willing to let the man go as a sign of cooperation, when he accuses Runt of taking orders from heathen dogs, Runt instead runs him through with a sword.
Unfortunately, sometimes just insulting the wrong person equals death.
Yeah.
Yep.
Leaving the camp, Henry makes his report, and along with Sir Radzig and Sir Bernard, he takes part in the attack, wiping out the Cuman and bandit camps.
Yes.
As they head toward the church, Runt flees up the steeple with Henry in hot pursuit. At first, the bandit commander doesn't recognize him until Henry begins to demand the sword. The two finally fight as equals, and all that training paid off, and Henry is able to overpower him, repeatedly demanding the sword and becoming more enraged as Runt laughs at him. Runt continues laughing. Henry continues beating his head into the ground, and soon Runt is dead, and Henry is pulled off the body by Sir Robard and Sir Radzig, who calmly congratulate Henry on killing the bandit commander. They tell Henry they found a large chest of gold hidden in the church, indicating someone very wealthy and powerful was funding the bandits. The three of them overlook the remains of the camp, where their troops are finishing off the last of the enemy. Runt is dead. Henry looks over the battle, the sight of the bodies and Runt's beaten head, and is suddenly sick to his stomach.
Yep.
In the end, even Runt's death is meaningless. The sword is still lost. Sir Bernard advises him to put the battle and the death behind him, but Henry vows to never forget. Now, we're going to do a little thing. So if you have one of the DLCs called From the Ashes, a short time after the raid, Henry will be appointed the new bailiff of Pribyslavitz, and is tasked with rebuilding and managing the village. If he is successful in this endeavor, Henry is promised a share of its income for 5 years, which is a ridiculously massive upgrade to the status from a blacksmith's son.
So he is then literally part of the noble class at that point.
Yeah. Sometime following the raid on Pribyslavitz, Henry learns the bandits are still conducting raids, and the nobles discover that a chest of coins recovered from the church are counterfeit. Hearing that the villagers of Merojed have captured a bandit, Sir Radzig dispatches Henry. Sir Radzig sends us everywhere. Sir Radzig dispatches Henry to interrogate him. The bandit reveals that Runt took his orders from a man they called the Chief, and he is due to rendezvous with a merchant named Menhart in order to collect another chest of counterfeit coins.
Okay, so the counterfeit coins are there to convince the unsophisticated bandits to keep working for them, it sounds like. Okay.
Henry meets again with Sir Radzig to report what he has uncovered. The two enjoy a quiet moment on the lookout point near Talmberg before Henry questions why such terrible things happen. What's the point of it all? Why does God allow for this to happen, the violence and suffering over and over? Sir Radzig responds that, while he is no theologian, he long ago came to the view that life is a trial, and the more problems you overcome, the better a man you will be. He shudders to think of what kind of ruler Hans Capon will be, being so pampered. He gives Henry approval to pursue Menhart, telling him, "Good luck, son." Henry tracks Menhart to Ravna, but finds only an empty wagon and some dead guards.
Yikes.
He discovers that the local charcoal burners looted the wagon but did not attack it, and questions a mercenary that they have rescued, who tells Henry the wagon was attacked by a knight. Charcoal burners, if you didn't know, making charcoal was a job.
Well, I think people think that charcoal is from the ground, but charcoal typically is actually...
Coal is from the ground.
Well, coal is from the
ground.
Coal
is from the ground. Charcoal
is actually carbon made out of wood.
Yes.
You have to bake the wood in a very specific way to make charcoal. So yeah, it is a very specific job you're supposed to do. But you're right, coal, I think people equate coal and charcoal, especially in the modern day, because we don't have to think about the difference between the two.
Unless you're a Minecraft player.
Yeah, that's fair.
In Minecraft, you have to make your charcoal by burning logs, and you can dig up your coal.
I am a dwarf, and I'm digging some coal. Diggy, diggy coal. I'm sorry, I had to.
No, you didn't, but okay.
I absolutely had to. You have no idea. It's in my contract.
We have contracts?
Shh.
Henry eventually discovers that the knight is named Ulrich of Passau, and he is also seeking the counterfeiters.
I'm so glad we've waited this far before we got somebody with the name Ulrich. I feel like Ulrich is a name that we love for its medieval, like, gutturally energy, and I'm glad we resisted so long using it until this moment.
With Ulrich's assistance, or not, Henry manages to find the head counterfeiter, an impoverished knight named Sir Jezek, and places him under arrest. Jezek will reveal that he was hired in Sasau and put in charge of minting the counterfeit coins by a young foreigner called Eric, who in turn took his orders from an unknown Hungarian nobleman, the Chief. Henry sets off in search of the bandit recruiter, hoping it will finally lead to the man behind it all. Following several potential leads, he eventually learns that the bandits have a secret meeting place, the Church of Sasau.
Oh, okay.
Once there, Henry is confronted by a bandit named Kozliak,
Okay.
who turns out to be the recruiter. Kozliak gives Henry a test. Find and kill the last remaining member of the Nuoff gang, Pius, who turned tail and ran when the robbery turned into a massacre. Pius, as it turns out, has taken vows at the Sasau Monastery and become a novice monk.
So that's why he can order Henry to murder people for justice? Is that all you need to be able to tell somebody to kill people?
Well, he's a bandit, so...
But he's a bandit become a monk?
No.
Wait.
Pius is the bandit turned monk.
That's okay.
Pius is a name.
No, I know Pius is
Okay.
a name. But Pius is... But I was
Kozliak wants us to kill Pius.
Oh, Kozliak wants us to kill Pius, and then Pius turns around and does a Uno reverse on that?
No. We haven't even found Pius yet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Pius ran from the massacre and then joined the monastery and became a monk.
Oh, so Pius is hiding. So he's trying to multi-class in order to get away from the mission. I see how it is.
One level of rogue, one level of monk.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
Thus begins Henry's new life as Brother Gregor, as he tries to figure out which of the 4 novices is Pius.
So Gregor, so not like in this area of the world, am I wrong? Is it Gregor or Gregosh? Maybe I'm thinking too.
It's Brother Gregor according to the wiki. What do you
Okay.
want from me?
Nothing. Never mind.
He makes friends with the other novice monks. One, Brother Antonius, tells Henry that he grew up in Valschkim and decided not to follow his father's profession and become a merchant. Henry will eventually find out that the abbot is investigating Antonius's story. Henry will then find a dagger in Antonius's locker.
Oh.
Everything points to him being Pius. Henry has a few options. If he doesn't arrest or murder him straight away, Pius attempts to poison Henry's food.
Oh, that's not good.
However, Henry survives, and a repentant Pius will offer to collaborate. Henry can either agree to the deception, kill one of the other novices and pretend it was Pius, or just kill Pius. If he lives, Pius will escape from the Sasau region, promising to never return. Regardless of the resolution, Henry will meet up with Kozliak again and learn the location of the bandit camp, Vranik. Before setting off to Vranik, Henry visits Sir Radzig and Sir Hanush and tells them of his plans to infiltrate the bandit camp. Hanush is enthusiastic, but Radzig hesitates, telling Henry not to put himself at risk. After tying up some loose ends, Henry arrives in Vranik, where he is able to gain entry and speak to the captain, Eric. However, he quickly discovers that Sir Istvan Toth, carrying Sir Radzig's Cloyalbiel's sword, the one Runt had taken, is the true mastermind behind the plan, but Istvan captures him before he can escape to warn Radzig.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Istvan orders his lackey to beat Henry and tells him of his plan to secretly help King Sigismund claim the throne to Bohemia and be rewarded with lordship over the Sasau region. He gloats that even the combined forces of Divish, Hanush, and Radzig can't stop him now. He finally reveals the secret that everyone has kept from Henry his whole life. He is not the son of Martin the blacksmith. He is the illegitimate son of Lord Radzig Kolbia.
Oh, interesting. So that's why his father never really wanted him to fight, because he technically is supposed to inherit. And that was... Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Istvan taunts Henry, telling him the reason Radzig never told him of his true parentage was because he was ashamed of him. Henry vows to kill Istvan with the sword, but the traitorous lord laughs it off and promises to give him the chance. He leaves his lackey to beat Henry senseless, intending on holding him to ransom. However, Henry is able to escape with the help of Zabishek.
Oh, man, this turncoat, I'm tired of him. I'm tired of him, and I haven't heard about him for another 30 minutes past, you know.
Yeah, he works his way back into the story again. Zabishek is the smallest of the bandits here, and he's fearful for his life and basically wants out.
Oh, convenient now, you traitorous SOB.
The two of them make it out of the camp and back to Rete. There, he reveals to Radzig he knows the truth. Radzig promises they will talk about it later, as they have to plan for the upcoming battle, and Henry races to Talmberg to tell Sir Divish that the armies are preparing to assemble. Divish agrees to immediately round up his troops and march to Vranik. That evening, Henry joins the army in an all-out assault on the camp. but there's no sign of Istvan or Eric, only a letter which mentions that Istvan will soon succeed in seizing the castle. At that moment, the soldiers drag up a bandit they've captured alive, who laughs at them mockingly, asks which castle they left unguarded, and Divish realizes with horror that Istvan has taken his men to Talmberg. Together with the three lords, Henry races to Talmberg, but it's too late. They have infiltrated the castle and taken Lady Stephanie captive. The men launch a desperate attack to try and breach the castle before the enemy can roll up the drawbridge, but Istvan appears holding a knife to Stephanie's throat, revealing that he has also captured Radzig, who had raised a head. Henry's men are forced to withdraw as Talmberg burns around them. Outside, they discuss what their plan should be to rescue Stephanie and Radzig. Hanush is in favor of siege, but Bernard suggests sending someone to sneak into the castle at night to release the hostages. Henry, of course, volunteers, along with several others, including a young Sir Hans Capon.
Oh, nice. There we go. So he's going to finally earn his wings, so to speak.
The stealth mission is ultimately a failure, as Henry's comrades are detected, but they manage to flee before harm befalls them or the hostages. The assembled armies then prepare to lay siege to Talmberg. After many days of building, a trebuchet is completed, and after several attempts to fire at Talmberg's main gate, the walls of Talmberg are struck, and Henry and the assembled armies of the now two lords attack once again. Once they reach the central courtyard of the castle, Istvan is confronted by Hanush and the other lords. Hanush eventually promises Toth that if he leaves Sir Radzig safely in the nearby countryside, and the other hostages safe as well, then their men will be given safe passage to do so and a small head start. Henry waits reluctantly as Toth rides out into the countryside with his father still captured. He questions those around him as to why Hanush had let Toth go, rather than just trick him and capture them all when they emerge from the tower. Hanush and the others explain that a lord's word is a powerful thing, and that it must be stuck to, otherwise Toth would have never trusted Hanush in the first place.
That's fair.
Shortly afterwards, Henry rides out with Hans Capon and some others men to pick up Sir Radzig. They find him standing in a meadow. Sir Hans charges off after Istvan Toth, stating that now that Istvan has released Radzig, the traitor is considered fair game. Sir Radzig and Henry stand and admire their surroundings. Noble honor comes up, which Henry asks if it's honorable to abandon your son. Radzig says he couldn't marry a commoner. But then Martin came along and looked after the two of them. Martin knew. And Radzig kept eyes on Henry all the while. Radzig says Henry is a lot like Martin. Both wanted adventure and to explore the world. Martin did, just as Henry has. Henry simmers, saying that one thing that tied him to Martin is still missing, the sword. He wants to find it and run Markvert von Aulitz through. Radzig chastises him lightly. It's a noble goal, and he'd love to see the man who killed Henry's mother dealt with, but that quest can't come at the expense of the better things in life that make life worth living. After the return to Rattay, Henry, Sir Radzig, Sir Hanush, Sir Divish, Sir Bernard, Sir Capon, and Sir Robard are visited by Jobst of Moravia. Jobst has come to request an alliance with them to stand against Sigismund's invasion of Bohemia and restore King Wenceslaus to the throne. Henry and Hans Capon are sent to Trotsky Castle to hand Lord Otto von Burgo a letter to inquire whether he seeks to continue support Sir Sigismund. The two are sent and ride to Trotsky. And we'll pick up with them when the sequel comes out later this year.
That's what... Oh my god, we still don't have the sword?
No.
All this time?
All this time.
What? I patiently listened to this, hoping I was like, okay, so we're going to get the sword, right? Henry's going to be able to... What? I feel betrayed,
Yes,
Mystic.
the sequel, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, is coming out this year.
But I could tell you really like the story because you're very eager to tell it. Like, you usually try to make space for me to speak, but you seemed really eager to finish this and be like, there's so much to go. Safi, you have to hold on. Oh my gosh. So,
I found this a fascinating game when I played it.
I like it's a fascinating concept that you're supposed to be bad from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I think not a lot of people who like video games are going to be super into. People like being of the top elite of whatever they're supposed to be. I mean, it goes back to why I think Mass Effect Andromeda didn't fare too well because everybody was used to 3 games playing Shepard where you're at the peak of your career.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're supposed
You're
to be
the war
playing.
hero at that point, and here you have to rise to that occasion.
And it sounds like this game,
You rise to the occasion again.
Yeah, exactly. What's it called? I'm sorry.
Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Kingdom Come Deliverance. Okay, I'm sorry. It's a very unique title, so.
And this is also the developer's first title. I think they all worked for other studios, but this is their first and only game up until the sequel.
Yeah, okay.
And, we mentioned this last time where Far Cry was about people rising to the occasion, but this feels more so. This feels...
I think one of the benefits of having a main character that has a background, a personality, a drive that's already written into the story is that it makes it easier for you as an outside observer to relate to them and then make decisions as them. Because there is some choice to help you be invested in Henry's story, but Henry is a fully fleshed person with, actual motivations that are established before he has the call to heroism, He's always wanted to adventure, and I think part of the reason his adopted father didn't want him to was like, that's kind of brutal. Like, you don't understand what you are about to face.
To war in Poland. He had been to he had been to war.
P.S. Poor Poland, always at war. But it's not fun. You hear the stories that are essentially this propaganda, so that knights are revered and that conquests that kings win are considered a win for the whole country. But what we're seeing with Henry is that as much as he's wanted the adventure, the human cost is really tearing at him from the inside. He's having this doubt of this being the way for him, as much as he ends up being very good at it.
Yeah.
So I do think, that's the advantage. Whereas in Far Cry 2 that we covered in our last episode, you're kind of a blank slate entirely. And
you're somewhat of a blank slate in that you have a 1-sentence backstory.
Yeah.
And you are palette swap mercenary, essentially.
And I think that kind of...
And you're a mercenary. Like, you are already...
Yes. A mercenary makes you a wild card automatically.
You're a wild card, but you have training and stuff, so it's not weird that you know how to fire a gun and everything. So
I think people like the idea of being the wild card because they feel like it means that as they're playing a game, they have more freedom. But I think if you want to talk about how you connect to a world and a story, you can't be a wild card. And I will say with certain fantasy games like the Elder Scrolls or with the Dragon Age games, they don't make you a wild card. They still have you anchored to very specific things one way or another. Even in Inquisition, which had the widest array of characters available for you to play background-wise until Veilguard will come out soon, you still were at this big historic event and became one of the most important people in that event for a very specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't always the same reason depending on your background. But, either you were a mercenary or you were there representing your clan if you were an elf, things like that. It's does that in a way so, and then you get choices as a character that are rooted in that background that you've selected for yourself. And I think that's important if you're going to connect to a story. Kingdom Come Deliverance obviously does that really well with Henry. And if you compare it to Far Cry 2, I would say they don't.
Yeah. And so there's a bunch of DLC for this game, and all the DLC revolves on Henry except for one, which revolves around Teresa.
Oh, really?
It's her daily life in Skalitz and stuff, and then what led to Zabishek. Like, that's where we get the line about Zabishek kicking her out. We don't know that.
Okay.
Until that DLC. So you get to see, I forget what it's called, but you get to see her side of that story too a little bit, which fleshes things out a little bit differently.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's another thing too, I think that struck me with this game. I mean, this happens with a lot of video games too, but maybe it's just because of where my headspace is with my writing. But it's very male forward because we're in a culture that is very much patriarchy, male dominated kind of situation. And I don't know, maybe it's just because the names are so different to me.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, I didn't grow up with people named Ulrich or Zabiche. So I mean it was striking. So it's interesting that, you know, in that time period they do have a DLC where they focus on a woman's perspective trying to survive war.
Yeah.
Which is even worse. Did you ever watch the Joan of Arc movie years ago?
No.
With, I think it was Kate Blanchett. No, was it? No. Was it? I forget who it was. So years ago they did a movie, Joan of Arc, and the first scene in that movie is a English takeover of a part of France, and they show a scene of something being done to Joan of Arc's sister, and it's awful. And that I think I watched that a little too young. It was very traumatizing for me, and that's when I was like, I don't want this in my media. It's traumatizing. It sounds like they handled that kind of topic though relatively okay here. Like, you don't have to.
Now I do know in the second game, there is, there was a trailer released for it, and there was a shot of coitus. Oh,
like Henry
in
partners with somebody.
Person, yeah. I think it might have been Teresa, but I couldn't quite tell. It was a very quick shot. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't recall that from the first game. I could be mistaken. I don't think it was there. If it was, I missed it.
That's so awkward. Okay. All right.
But there definitely is a lot more Henry and Hans. Like, there's a lot more juvenile energy, it feels. It's not these sir whatever. It's
now we're peers, so we're friends.
Peers. Now we're two young guys essentially out on a mission.
Two studly dudes out to save the world. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm just riffing right now.
But that's, I don't know. I literally saw the trailer 10 hours as of the time we're recording, like 10 hours ago. I didn't watch it until then because I didn't know if I was...
So when's it coming out, or is it out?
This year. Okay. I don't know when. I think it's September, maybe, but...
Okay. Yeah, getting out before that Veilguard drop. Man. Not that... I don't think the crossover is going to be that heavy, but still. Wow. Well, thank you. I know you threatened to cover this for a while now. I'm glad you did. It's very compelling, but also... It's going to be interesting for when I do the
Let's Play.
Because
the 1 hour Let's Play.
I don't like what. Wait, are we going to do it after the first 2 hours? Like, I don't think I'm going to be that good with the gameplay. 2, it's really visceral. So I'm really concerned. I don't know how well I'm going to react, considering how I react to A Plague's Tale. And that's not nearly as
There's no rat
visceral.
tornadoes in this one, though.
There were no rat tornadoes in the point of... Okay. All right. It's just, if it feels too real, I'm afraid I'm not going to have a good time. So just be ready to be on standby.
If we start at the beginning, it's just going to be an idyllic slice of life.
So we'll watch the calm before the storm.
Unless you really want to speedrun that tutorial section.
I don't think I do. If you're telling me I get to have a nice little humble medieval town life for an hour, I'll take it.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. So the Thursday after this release, Let's Play of Kingdom Come Deliverance, and alternate Thursdays, we're doing Mass Effect 2.
Yep.
So by the time this is out to the public, the first one has already happened. But it doesn't mean you can't catch it later on our YouTube. Remember, youtube.com/@loretogether. And if you become a patron, you get voting rights.
Yep.
All right. I think that's enough now.
Thanks for listening again.
Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.